me.
Welcome to the Senior Rehab Podcast.
The podcast for rehab clinicians that want to better serve older adults.
And now, your host, Dustin Jones.
Hello, friends. This week's short comes from Matt Dancigers at ptbraintrust.wordpress.com. He wrote an article in September of 2015, Does the Weather Make Pain Worse? And I know this can be very pertinent for many of us as we're in the middle of winter right now. People say it all the time. Oh, it's going to rain. I can tell in my knees. Or my knees really hurt over the weekend. They do that with bad weather. What is it with these magical knees? From my personal vantage point, there's no logic to this. It's simply psychological misattribution of causes. But is it heard so often, or is there something to it? Well, I asked on Twitter and fully enjoyed the convos that occurred. So here is a summary of what was shared. Number 1, wind speed and wind gusts were shown by statistically significant yet clinically irrelevant in predicting an episode of low back pain. Neither temperature nor humidity, wind direction, precipitation, or air pressure were factors. The study asked a question about weather and the risk of low back pain occurrence. It does not answer why. Number 2, rheumatoid arthritis, known as wind wet disease in the Chinese language, is known to be a disease reportedly affected by weather. In the study, 6 out of 36 individuals were statistically influenced by weather changes. These influences were sunspots, solar radio flux, and UV, and accounted for 19 or 64% of the causation of the pain. The associations were negative, I must mention. This leaves us with, well, most are not sensitive to weather, and those that are, well, some are more sensitive than others. Again, not answering why. Number 3, a literature review found that in patients with RA, higher humidity was more of a factor in irritating symptoms than was higher temperatures. They point out that in some circumstances, the higher the temperature means that people will go indoors to seek air conditioning. Therefore, pain might reduce in high temperatures. Interesting take. Number 4, arthritis. It also may have predictive qualities. 92% of the participants thought their symptoms would be affected by the weather change. Moreover, 48% of the participants believe that the weather can be predicted by their feeling of symptoms. So this study looked some previous studies, sort of like a soft systematic review, and concluded that there is no conclusion. Some correlation with small significance. So more research is needed, right? Number 5, this article discusses in lay terms what might account for this weather pain phenomena. The authors points to barometric pressure, not temp or wetness, etc. This is the type of thing many patients may have read. It's off of WebMD. The inconclusiveness runs right throughout this piece. It's wonderful. The author states temperature does not matter, but then suggests if it's cold, you should bundle up. She also suggests that high barometric pressure affects pain, but then says to wear a compressive glove to help the hand. Man, this stuff is exactly why more research is needed. To her credit, at the end, she emphasizes that pain is temporary and to improve your mood as a coping device as well. Number 6, you can predict the trend so far, can't you? Here's a quote. The VAS reflects the patient's level of pain on the day or days leading up to the attendance. This can be affected by a number of factors, including emotions on the day of attendance, psychological stressors, or indeed the weather. It has been previously highlighted that seasonal variations in weather conditions may adversely affect a patient's mood, which may in turn alter the perception of pain. However, in this study, when a sub-analysis of the impact of the VAS was performed against weather variables, no statistical significance was observed. It literally goes on like this forever in the search database. Some slightly support a connection, and many others don't. Oh, and may I also share the Aches and Pains Index, which is a graphic from the Weather Channel. Oh, this is ridiculous. He goes on to say, I believe the research question remains unanswered. The personal perspective and individual truth of weather affecting someone's pain is answered by themselves, likely on a continuum based on many biopsychosocial factors, as is always the case. As far as the bio part is concerned, perhaps mechanoreceptors or baroreceptors sensitive to pressure become sensitized to a degree that could detect an atmospheric change. It has been shown that those living in San Diego can detect small temperature changes, so plausibility exists indeed. In my professional opinion, there are some learning and causation fallacies, post hoc confirmation bias followed closely by recall bias, and some belief reinforcement, and a few raindrops later, here we have it. I can predict the weather with my knees. Still, a fascinating topic, no doubt. I know that when it rains, my clinic empties out with people in too much pain to make it to their visit. It's just one of those things. Shout out to those that shared research and images via Twitter. I did not compile this all on my own. Cheers. Thanks, Matt. Hit me. Thank you for listening to the Senior Rehab Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you should hop on over to seniorrehabproject.com, where you can find more helpful content and how you can join me and many others in the movement that's changing the face of geriatric rehab. I appreciate you, and I'll talk with you next week. But in the meantime, do not forget to stay funky.